Dlaczego? Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferret 64 with me, your host, YemmytheFerret. I hope everyone's doing fantastic this past week. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July weekend. Yes. Hope y'all didn't blow off your fingers with fireworks and such. Ferret 64 is the one-stop shop for video game news, first impressions, coming soons, and so much more. We got a nice, lengthy episode probably for you today. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We got some games I've been playing this week and a good amount of news and stuff. So let's go ahead and jump right in, folks. Let's just jump right in with the first section of the podcast, which is, what have I picked up this past week? All right, to start us off, the first game that arrived in the mail, I got this one on eBay, was Burnout Legends for the PSP. These sections are probably going to be kind of PSP heavy for a little while until I end up getting all the games that I've wanted. But Burnout Legends, this is one of two Burnout games that are on the system. This one was a nice complete in box. I thought it looked pretty good. I've not tried a racing game on the PSP yet, but I thought I might as well try out might as well try out a racing game, one, but two, might as well try out one of the best franchises for racing games out there. The next one is Daxter for the PSP. Now, I know this just came to the PlayStation services, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna be getting the major ones physically anyway for the PSP. I get it. There are a lot of PSP games that are being ported now, and Daxter was the latest one. But you know, it was cheap enough, and I think the reason for that is because the housing for the disc doesn't have a top latch, so it's kind of just sitting in there. So I'm not gonna be able to I guess I could put this down and show you, but you know, the inside looks pretty nice. It's got the handbook in there. When I'm looking at PSP games, I like, or any games in general, I like it when they are complete, in the box. And there is a little bit of damage on the disc here too. So obviously that took down the price a little bit, but it's not like the disc itself is good. It's just the outside of the disc that has a bit of a crack there. It should be fine. There should be no problem there. Probably someone almost stepped on it. Or maybe they stepped on the box, I don't know. But Daxter, this is the PSP Greatest Hits box, so it's not the original Black Label. I don't really care about that kind of thing. Next up is a game that I didn't know about until I was browsing the PSP game library. There was a list of all the PSP games, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And here we go. It's Lord of the Rings Tactics for the PSP, rated T for teen. I really don't know anything about this game. The back of the box looks like it's kind of like a grid-based system, almost like a Fire Emblem in a way, where you move your characters and stuff around. The inside of the box is nothing special. The disc looks kind of cool, and there's a manual, of course, with it, which I do enjoy having. I wanted to get this because, one, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and two, I had never heard of this game before in my life. Maybe it was mentioned to me in a video or in a YouTube video or something like that, but I have no memory of ever hearing about this game. So Lord of the Rings Tactics, I don't think it's anything like the Battle for Middle-earth series, which is unfortunate, but it could be kind of fun. So I'll see how that is. And the last PSP game that I got this past week, this was a brand new sealed copy of the game, Loco Roco. I unwrapped it since then, so it's not like it's gonna remain unopened. But Loco Roco is a pretty goofy game series. The reason why I bought this brand new sealed was it was only $10, which sometimes makes me scratch my head a little bit. This one, though, I was looking online, and it's not really too popular of a game, so I wanted to get it before something happens. I don't know. It was one of those things I was like, I kind of feel like I need to get this before people realize that, Loco Roco sealed is a good deal. I don't know. Well, these are all the new games that I got this past week. The 4 PSP games. So there's one game here that I wanted to just kind of show because we were playing it on stream, and that's Afro Samurai. I bought this on eBay for like $20-$30 or something like that last year, and I'll talk about the game obviously in a little bit, but I thought that it's a cool box. It's got the manual and the disc in there. It's a cool. I like the box itself. I think it's a nice looking box. Of course, I have to take off the GameStop sticker here. Obviously, I did not buy this at GameStop. But yeah, I just wanted to add this in there because I was talking about it. I have it. It's physically. I have it in my hand, so it'd be nice to show off something like this every so often, like when I play a game that I have physically like this. So. That is that. Let me know what you think of my pickups down below. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit PSP heavy for probably the foreseeable future at this point because, like I said last week, the games are pretty cheap, all things considered, and like on eBay, I'm pretty good at sniffing out good deals on eBay. We'll see if this latest one that I found is going to be a good one. I was kind of nervous. I got a copy of Jak and Daxter on the PSP. I forget what that one's called. A New Legacy or something like that. For $11 plus shipping. And usually that goes for about $40. So I'm hoping that the game is okay. It was a bidding situation and no one bid on the game. So I'm hoping that I got a steal, and a lot of times, I do find a steal. I mean, this Loco Roco game, $10 for a sealed copy. Not too bad. So we'll see though. I don't know when that'll arrive, but it'll arrive eventually. All right, let's head over to the next part of the show, which is what have I been playing this past week. All right, so first up on the list is Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. I got this game a week ago, but I didn't play it because I was playing Shadow of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring DLC. And I just decided to work on the Elden Ring DLC pretty much the entire last week, and into this week I was playing more of it. I don't have anything new to add other than I found a couple new bosses, I found a couple new areas, or maybe I went to a few new areas that I hadn't been to, a few new pathways. But for the most part, I think that now at this time, on the 6th of July, I think I am pretty much done with it. Like, I finished the main stuff last week, and this week I finished up a lot of the side stuff. So I think I'm kind of done with it for right now, but I may pop it back in, every once in a while here just to see anything else that I could have possibly missed. But at this point, even when I watch videos where people are doing like challenge runs on the DLC, I know the areas and I don't need to worry about spoilers anymore because I've been everywhere, at least everywhere that I can remember. But Banana Rumble is the next Super Monkey Ball game. This one came out after Banana Mania. Banana Mania, I feel like it was a collection of older levels and some new ones mixed in there. Banana Rumble is 100% new levels. It's got some new characters in there. It's got like a story mode going on. It's a Switch exclusive right now, which is fine. I don't really mind that. I don't think the graphics took that big of a dive, being on the Switch or anything like that. I also feel like the game itself runs pretty well. I didn't have any troubles with that personally. The level started off pretty good. I think that they kind of dipped around like the fifth or sixth world, but then they rebounded in the final part of the game. If you don't know what Monkey Ball is, you essentially control the map. So with your joystick, you're controlling the map, so it rolls back and forth and stuff like that. It doesn't really feel like you're controlling the map because it really just feels like you're controlling the monkey and the ball, but you are controlling the map. You're rotating it in left and right. Kind of like those old marble games that you used to play, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. But I mean, it's colorful. It's got all the monkeys that you could ever love. It's got all that stuff going on, and the story mode is serviceable. I think that like in terms of like a story mode that I would like praise or go back to the play just for the story. This is not going to be one of those games. I found myself kind of zoning out during the campaign when the cutscenes were playing. because not only was it uninteresting what was going on, but the characters speak kind of like that Banjo-Kazooie mumble speak, except they just repeat the same words over and over and over again, and it starts to become really apparent when like some of the more like sinister ones come in, and it just sounds goofy. Like I know it's kind of a staple of the Monkey Ball series, but for this one, I mean, it's not like I'm wanting full on, you know, Super Monkey Ball voice acting, but it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if we're gonna do like this style where they're just repeating stuff over and over again, why don't we just do mumbling? You know, why don't we just go to that age old classic mumbling? You know, I feel like that would have been so much better for that. But here's the thing: the campaign mode. It's such a small thing. It's really not. It's hardly a criticism to say it. The story is serviceable, and the characters are a little bit annoying, because the main crux of the game, the main thing that you're gonna be doing, is getting through these maps, and they're all pretty well designed. There weren't any that I got super stuck on until the end. I will say the ending like set of levels in World 10 we're actually kind of difficult here and there. There were a couple that I got stuck on for a good little while. I'm not sure exactly how long, but I definitely was stuck long enough for me to start like getting a little bit, started to get a little bit frustrated. I'm like, why can't I do this? This is a game made for children, you know? There was one that had like a bunch of loop-de-loops that you had to go across. That one kept causing me issues at the end. There was another one that was just a giant slide, and you figure like, oh, it's gonna be a fun, easy level. No, it was actually a little bit challenging. But you go across a wide range of different areas, from the grasslands to cake. You actually go to like a dessert world. Then there's like a super Neo Tokyo kind of city thing going on, and you go to like this fantastical like magic world as well. And the visuals are all really nice. The backgrounds and stuff like that are really nice. The soundtrack is really good too. They did a great job with that. Sounds really heart pumping. It really gets your heart pumping and stuff like that. I did like how the music changed for each world too. I think that was a good touch as well. Other than that, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble really starts to shine after the campaign, because the new versions of the worlds that you unlock are actually much more difficult than the base levels. It almost reminded me of what Nintendo does with their series, where you play through Princess Peach Showtime and you do all the basic stuff, but then it's like, oh, but you got to go back through and do the more challenging mode where you got to find these things, or like with what was it? Mario versus Donkey Kong, the remake, the bonus levels at the end of the game were like where the challenge really picked up, which is nice, So that does add some longevity to the overall playtime of the game. I'll probably be going back and playing a couple of those harder levels here and there as I feel like it. There's also a co-op mode as well. There's up to 4 players you can play the game. I haven't tried it out though, so I don't have any opinions on that right now at this moment. Other than that, I don't really have too much else to say about Banana Rumble, other than it was fun. I had a fun time with it. Did it overstay its welcome a little bit? During that middle section, I felt it was. But like I said before, it does rebound nicely towards the end. And then the added challenge of the bonus worlds and new worlds added onto the end does help a lot. And the new characters are fun. I like the designs of the new characters. There's like 3 new animal characters. One's like a cat, the other one's a lion, and the other one's a sheep. Kind of reminded me of the Cult of the Lamb sheep. So they're fun designs. The new villain for the game is kind of like by the books, by the numbers kind of thing going on. A lot of people love the crazy scientist guy from the older games. He's not in this one, unfortunately. And then also the characters you can play as, there's a nice variety to them. And the one thing I will say about like this game compared to other ones, and I don't know if this was in other ones, but from what I remember, it's not. Each character has their own stats. So I has like 3 stars across the board for everything: braking, speed, stopping, etc. Then the next character will have like they're all speed and they're not too much braking and they're blah blah blah. So it's cool that each character kind of had their own vibe going on. And of course there's cosmetics and stuff that you can buy for the character, but it doesn't change your skills at all, your skill level at all. So in general, I thought that was a nice touch for the game. It definitely made me want to try out a few different characters here and there. Like I tried out one of the heavier characters and the lighter characters, just to see how big of a difference it was, and it did make quite a difference, especially because there's a new like spin move where you charge up your ball and you shoot into, or you shoot as fast as you can ahead of you. Helps with jumps and stuff like that, because there's no dedicated jump button in this game. You have to either launch yourself off of things or boost into things and bounce off of them. And that charged up thing can be nice, especially if you have a character who charges up super fast. So yeah, it's one of those things. I enjoyed my time with it. I'll probably go back and play a little bit more here and there as I feel like it. And for the moment, it's just a generally good game. I don't know if it'll get into the top 10 of the year, but it definitely was fun. It was worth my time at least, and it might be worth your time. So if you want to check that out, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble I gave it like a 4 out of 5. I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds like someone's setting off some very late fireworks. We're at least 2 days removed from 4th of July at this point that I'm reporting this. Next up, Greedy Waffles and I played a game called Chained Together. We finished it on his stream. We started on my stream, and we finished it on his stream. And this was a pretty goofy, fun little time. It's not going to be like, it's not high art or anything like that, you know? Like, it's not going to be one of those sophisticated games where, you know, the nuances of the physics in this game are so, no, it's not really like that at all. It's pretty much only up, except you are chained to another player. And, of course, it gets more chaotic as you go. So you start off with, you know, you can have just yourself solo play in the game. Not as fun. But then if you have 2 people in there, well, now 2 people have to work together. 3 people, 4 players, obviously it would get much more chaotic. No one else wanted to play the game with us, so it was just the 2 of us. But just being the 2 of us, it was fun enough. I feel like they didn't do enough with like the theme of Chained Together, where you're 2 guys or multiple people trying to get out of hell, climb up this giant like fire hell tower. And the problem is that once you reach the top of the hell tower, you go into like the real world, and it's just a bunch of mundane, like, oh, here's houses to climb up, and buildings, and cars, and airplanes, and stuff like that. And then you go a little bit higher, and there's like an ancient temple, and then there's a Asian temple that you climb, and the areas are pretty large. It does take quite a while to get through them, but it never really built on itself like I was hoping it would. Like, I really would have liked the game better if it was just that like Hell Tower kind of aesthetic all the way up. But this is one of those kind of games that the creator has like a package of assets that they can place into their game in like Unreal Engine or whatever it is, or Unity. And they just decided to, plant all the random things that they could in everywhere. So, if you know Only Up, you know that Only Up is also kind of this way, where they used a lot of free assets to just kind of build this platforming adventure up into the sky. It's pretty much the same thing for this one, where it's just a bunch of random assets clumped together in groups that are alike. But built up on top of each other until you finally get to the top part, which is like the heaven or like the goddess place. And there's 2 different endings you can get. One ending is like the bad ending, the other is the good ending. If you collect all the collectible wings along the way, then you get the good ending, and you can go to heaven. And if you get the bad ending, you got to go back down. You can finish the game, of course, and watch the credits roll, but technically it's not the good ending because you get sent back to hell because you didn't become an angel on your way up there. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, the physics aren't great in the game. I don't think they're supposed to be amazing, but they're not great at all. Sometimes the grabbing can be a bit inconsistent with the ledges and stuff like that. There's some good ideas in here that just weren't fully fleshed out. Like there's a section where you drive a hellish car through a racetrack, and that was kind of fun. Didn't last too long though. And later on, you ride a horse and chariot. Doing the same kind of thing. It's a little bit more difficult, but still, once again, it's nothing like too special. So all in all, like it's fun. I mean, it's like $5 or whatever on Steam, maybe even $4. It's worth a playthrough, especially if you have a group of friends that you want to play it with. And once again, this is not a game that you're gonna be like, oh my, I'm so sophisticated for playing Chained Together. No, I mean, you know, it doesn't look great. I mean, it plays pretty well, but other than that, it's like, yeah, you know, it's just a quick, not really quick. It's a couple hour playthrough. fun time. There's harder difficulty modes for the game as well. Like you can have a mode where if you fall, that's it. You're down at the bottom again. I think it's called lava mode, which we may or may not go back and redo. I said that I would. You know, I mean it's a pretty quick game, and I'm sure we would play that until we get super frustrated or whatever. But yeah, you know, I gave it like a 3 out of 5. I thought it was, I thought it was fun enough. You know, I'm not going to say that's a bad game, and it's just, but it didn't like go above and beyond what I wanted the game to do, or you know, it didn't go above and beyond just the base level like caring when the developer made the game. You know, and I don't know if this one's going to be taken down from the Steam shop too. Only Up was taken down because it used a couple assets that were copyrighted. This one, though, did very much seem like, hey, it's just a bunch of assets we're plopping into a map. Let's go, you know. But yeah, chained together, not too bad. I enjoyed myself for the most part, but you know, does it have longevity? I don't know, maybe not, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And then lastly, for the games that I've been playing this week that are new or from 2024, I finally bought Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, and I got this on Steam for like $20. I was waiting for the Steam sale for a while because, you know, like it was kind of hovering around like that 25 to 30-ish dollar area when it was on sale before. I believe it was on sale for season 1. It was like $30 and it was like $28, $26. I'm like, it's getting there. It's so getting there. And then finally, with the summer Steam sale, it went down to $20, and I was like, you know what? I have $22 in my Steam wallet right now from a refund I got on a different game. Let's go ahead and just do it. You know, let's do it. And of course, the refund policy on Steam is very nice. I could play Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League for less than 2 hours and refund it if I really wanted to. But I'm past that refund mark, so I guess the game is in my collection forever. Would I have liked the game physically on like PlayStation or something like that? Probably not. I don't really care about this one. I mean, I do care, but I don't care to have it physically. Does that make sense? So Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. I know I've talked about this game before in passing, but I never really got around to playing it. Of course, I played like the alpha where they allowed you to kind of mess around with the like first like, I don't know, hour of the game, where they let you do the tutorial and then they dumped you into the open world to kind of mess around if you wanted to. And I was very critical of like the traversal and stuff like that, because none of the characters really felt great. I mean, King Shark felt the best with Deadshot being right behind him, but Harley Quinn's swinging mechanic, not really too great. Captain Boomerang's Speed Force Boomerang, it just doesn't really feel that great at all. In the end, what I finally did was I ended up using King Shark for this playthrough because I knew everyone was saying that he was the most fun character. He had the best move set for traversal and stuff like that. So I figured, yeah, I might as well give it the best shot that they can possibly get and use the best character in the game, right? And I know that, you know, if I do play a co-op with someone else, they'll probably be like, well, I want to be King Shark. I want to be King Shark. Does it really matter in the end? I don't know. I was using Harley Quinn for a little bit too. The nice thing about playing solo in the game is that you can actually switch the characters, and sometimes the characters will be like heated or whatever they call it, where if you use them you get bonus XP and bonus stuff, which is kind of nice, I guess. It's also nice that you can just switch without having to load or anything between the characters. It's not like I guess it's not. I guess it's. I was going to say it's kind of like Spider-Man 2, but also like Spider-Man 2 did have to reload in order to switch characters. It was really fast, but it did have to load something. I feel like when you're playing the Suicide Squad game, it really does kind of just swap over without too much hassle. Figuring out how to do it is the real problem. You have to press a certain direction on the D-pad, and I did not know that for like the first like hour of the game. So I was kind of stuck as Harley Quinn, and I wanted to change over to King Shark. But eventually I did. I was just kind of messing around with my controller, and I was like, oh, the character selector wheel. There it is. So at this point, I feel like Kill the Justice League has already been talked about to death. So I don't know how long I want to talk about it right now. I'm a couple hours in. I'm having an okay time. It's not. It's starting off kind of like Skull and Bones did for me, where it's like, I'm not. I mean, I kind of like it. I'm enjoying myself. It's not like I'm having a terrible time with the game. But I think that's because the cutscenes and like the graphic fidelity is so high. Like the cutscenes are really fun. I think the writing is pretty smart. There's some funny moments in there. They've written the characters pretty well, all things considered. There was also a lot of references to the Arkham verse. And before I was complaining, like, yeah, I mean, they're just using this Arkham thing as a crutch. And I would argue, yeah, they still kind of use it as a crutch because when they bring it up in conversation, it's not like it's not like forced, but it's not like natural, if you know what I mean. But there are things that do relate back to what happened in like Arkham Knight and Arkham City at times. They even have a little call out to Harley Quinn's old Arkham Asylum outfit with like the nurse outfit or whatever it is with the whatever going on. She like sees it and she's like, nope, not doing that again. Which is kind of funny, I kind of like that. There's a section where you're getting your traversal techniques, and King Shark puts on the Riddler hat, and they're like, oh, that's the Riddler's invisibility hat. So he puts it on, and they kind of mess around with him for a little bit, and he's like, fuck you guys, at the end of it all. There's a lot of moments in this game, at least in the cutscene wise, when it's just the four of them kind of palling around that I really enjoy. Like when you add in like Amanda Waller and Rick Flag and Poison Ivy and all those other characters eventually, sure, like when they interact with Penguin, it's a little bit funny, they're like zapping him while he's on the ground, telling Waller to zap him because he's still running with quotations around it. Kind of fun. But then you also find a character named Gizmo, who I can only recall from the Teen Titans show, so forgive me. I'm a big DC fan, but sometimes I don't get all the stuff. But Gizmo, I remember him from Teen Titans. He was a fun character. He could do a lot of stuff with robotics and stuff like that, and he kind of does the same thing here. His character is not like my favorite, personification of him. I think it kind of works for the vibe of the Arkham verse and this game, but he's not like I think I like him better in Teen Titans, obviously. And then Amanda Waller's done pretty well. She doesn't partake in the jokes or anything like that, so that's good. The one thing you don't want is for the hard ass Amanda Waller to be cracking a joke here or there. Same thing with Rick Flag. I feel like Rick Flag, he should definitely be the commanding officer, serious commanding officer, stuff like that. A lot of people are kind of mixed on what they did with Poison Ivy, turning her into a child. I think that in terms of like kind of like crazy sequences, when Harley Quinn discovers that Poison Ivy is still like a little kid, it's a very interesting moment because it's implied that they were in some sort of relationship together, but the problem is that they didn't really dive into that in the Arkhamverse. Like you see Poison Ivy in Arkham Asylum, and she's released by Harley Quinn, and they just kind of go their separate ways. And then in Arkham City, I don't think Harley and Poison Ivy interact at all. It's more Catwoman and Poison Ivy. And then in Arkham Knight, once again, I don't think Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy interact at all. And then by the time that they could have interacted, Poison Ivy's dead. She sacrifices herself for the city. Well, for the planet, I guess, not just the city. But that was the thing. Like, and then all of a sudden, Harley's like, "That's my Ivy," And it's almost like they pulled from the TV series and other places as well. Like obviously, the Harley Quinn comic book series has had them in a bit of a relationship since the beginning of that. So it's one of those things. Like I get where they're pulling these things from, but in terms of like the Arkhamverse and what happened in the Arkham Asylum canon and stuff like that, they don't really interact too much in the games. I will say there is a comic book that I didn't read that was set in the Arkham City era, so it's possible that there's something in there that I missed. I did read the Arkham Knight comic book series. I don't recall Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy even being in that, or at least having a big role in that. I think there's some companion books as well that I haven't read, but for my knowledge of the Arkhamverse, I don't think that they've had the interactions that they've had, that they're implying that they've had, at least on screen or in here, that they've been implying. So it's one of those things that's like, yeah, I get why you're doing that, because obviously Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn are like buddy-buddy now. Maybe, obviously even more than that. But it's weird to do that in this game where in every other iteration of the series, they haven't really done much together, you know. There was that DLC for Arkham Knight where Harley Quinn breaks Poison Ivy out of prison, but even then, like that's it's a very quick thing, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough for most people. And thinking about it, maybe it's enough for me to know that Harley Quinn broke her out of prison and after the Joker died and stuff like that. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, what do you guys think about it? Let me know. Other than that, I haven't really gotten too much farther than the Poison Ivy thing right now. I'm able to attack Green Lantern's fortress, and I need to like do something to try and find Lex Luthor. In general, the game looks great. Like graphically, the game is stellar. Like if you want to compare apples to apples with like two live service games or multiple live service games, this one is definitely the best looking live service game between the couple that have come out this year. Skull and Bones being one of them. Even like I think it does look a little bit better than Helldivers 2 at times. And I think that like if this wasn't a live service game and it was just like a co-op shooter in a way, it would have been better. I mean, obviously Gotham Knights kind of fell apart and that was just a cooperative brawler, but it did have a lot of loot elements. And Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is very much like so good looking, and you just kind of wish that like there's times where I just kind of wish like I wish I was just Batman going around Metropolis, you know, or they could have done a whole different thing where they're like, yeah, you can still play as like you can still have the whole Suicide Squad thing be the angle, but have them like be in the city before the apocalypse happens, you know, before Brainiac gets there. I feel like a real impact on this would have been being able to explore the city, kind of like you do in Spider-Man or in the Arkham games, where it's like, okay, we're exploring the city before the giant thing happens, like before the Scarecrow gas gets sent out, before Poison Ivy in Arkham Asylum takes over the base and changes everything into like a flowery area, right? Before Venom takes over Spider-Man 2's map and creates Venom hives everywhere, before blah, 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 right? I think this game needed something like that, because where it stands, like, yeah, you meet the characters, they're in Arkham Asylum, and they're being taken out of Arkham Asylum and put into Task Force X, and that's kind of where you go from there. I almost wish that like, yeah, Amanda Waller recruited them for Task Force X before Brainiac showed up. You do something with Task Force X, like you take out like a D tier villain, like Ratcatcher or something, you know, and then Brainiac shows up and she's like, well, Suicide Squad, time for you to really earn your stripes, right? And then all hell breaks loose. And then, you know, you like, let's say also like you were fighting Batman at the time and he gets taken by Brainiac because you got the upper hand and Brainiac took advantage of that. Or same thing with like, you could do that with Green Lantern or any of the other characters. Where it stands, where the game goes once you do get to Metropolis, if that first section of the game had been there, would have been kind of cool. You see like the giant robot ship above you at all times, and there's obviously a war happening in front of you between several forces, and it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, this would be a really cool setting for like the mid turning point of the game, where like you're exploring Metropolis on its own and fighting like a different threat, and then boom, the big threat comes in. But starting off with just the big threat, you know, not my favorite thing ever. So you know, I don't know. But where they do go with the story isn't bad. I know there's some people complaining about the story for this one. I think the story so far is pretty good. There was a lot of people saying like, oh, let's get one thing straight. I don't want to get too far into it, but let's get one thing straight. These are 4 villains. I mean, I know Harley Quinn's kind of more like an anti-villain at this point, or an anti-hero at this point. But these are villains. Captain Boomerang for sure is like one of the oldest villains in like the Flash's history. Deadshot, assassin, villain. You know, I know they try and spruce up his character a bit here and there, but at the end of the day, he's a villain. Harley Quinn, once again, anti-hero, but still a villain. Still wants to do villainous things. Kind of crazy. King Shark is the only one that's kind of pardon the pun, a fish out of water here. But still, I mean, you could see him as, hey, you know, he's kind of villainous, I guess, but He's kind of more like, hey, I'm here because I was kind of dragged into this, but that's fine. So I like, I mean, I like some things about this game, but there's other things that the DC fan inside of me is like, why didn't you just do this and that and the other thing? Why didn't we just get another Arkham game? You know, after Arkham Knight, Bruce Wayne dealing with the fact that his identity is out there now doesn't really do anything. Like you could have had like a Justice League game where you're playing as Batman and he's being recruited by the Justice League and everyone knows who he is. I don't know, maybe. Um, but yeah, so far I don't think that the story is too bad at all. I mean, there are some cringy moments in there, some poorly written moments in there, but for the most part, I think it's done pretty well in terms of that. Same thing with like the traversal. I've gotten used to King Shark's traversal stuff now, and I think that if I was using Harley Quinn still, I would have a bit more maybe criticism to say about the traversal, but for the most part, it works fine. The one thing that's not fully gelling with me is the combat. It's that third-person mundane shooter gameplay. The funny thing is they want you to shoot the legs of the enemies instead of the head, which is just really fucking with my brain. Because if you shoot the legs, you stun them, and you can gather shields from them. You pick up shields that do a melee attack on them, which is just like, why? Like, the whole thing is just so, like, the gameplay loop is just so boring. You shoot enemies in the legs, or you counter shoot their attack, and then you collect their shield, and then you kind of rinse and repeat. And if you stop collecting shields, you're gonna end up dying because there's not a lot of you don't have a lot of health for your character. The whole thing is shield based, which is like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're running around the city and you're killing these like purple goop enemies from the get go. And I think they do a good job of like setting up like the invasion and stuff like that. Like Green Lantern kind of captures you and takes you around the city, and I think that's kind of cool. You know, it really sets up the world pretty well. And also Batman has been infected, and one of the first things you do in the game is go through this section where Batman's like hunting you down Arkham Asylum style. He hunts down the 4 different characters, and they really show how like he's evil now. Oh man, he's evil. He's not himself. You know, he's killing people. It's a very, I would say it's a very edgy game. You know, it's very edgy. And obviously it just kind of goes from there. I mean, obviously I've seen a couple of those cutscenes where like Captain Boomerang's pissing on the Flash or Batman's death scene. I've seen those scenes, and yeah, they are a bit like disrespectful to the character. And, you know, obviously this being one of Batman's last voice acting roles in here, it is kind of crazy to hear him saying all these things and doing these things as his last performance, or well, his last performance. But in the end, you just gotta remind yourself, like, yeah, this is a villain story. Like, even though we're fighting Brainiac and we're trying to save the city, or quote unquote save the city, they're still villains at their core. Like, all these characters are still villains. So I don't know why people are holding them up to higher expectations, because at the end of the day, Captain Boomerang hates the Flash. He's gonna piss on his corpse. Harley Quinn has been dealing with Batman for so long. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's maybe in the moment when I get there I'll feel differently, but watching it in a cutscene maybe not out of context, but just in the cutscene in general, it's not terribly written, but I understand why it's like kind of off-putting, and that's because you're used to these characters being good, and they're always so good, and Batman is so good. He doesn't kill anyone, and all these characters are saving people, but now they're the villains, and you're hunting these villains, and you're taking them out. Obviously, there's plenty of fan theories going around, but for the most part, it's like I don't mind it entirely, because of the fact that like I said, they're villains. They're going to do villainous things. They've set that up from the get-go, and we'll see if any of their characters change by the end of it all, but, you know, we'll go from there. But that's that. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, since it's already been talked to death online, and I'll probably have way more things to say once I finish the game, but as of right now, that's my thoughts. Take it or leave it. We'll see how I feel about it by the time I'm done with it, which could be sooner rather than later. It depends on if the game keeps being at least interesting story-wise. I know the mission structure is kind of repetitive, but you know, I can kind of turn my brain off for a little bit, have a video playing in the background while doing the combat, and then come back and pause that video for like the story and stuff like that. All right, as for games I've been playing offline or on stream on my own time, on offline on my own time or on stream, I was playing Madden 2009 or '09 on the PSP. It was actually a very surprising game. It plays really well in terms of like a Madden game and like like an old PSP game. I think this was the first. No, Madden '08 was the first PSP game on there, but it plays pretty well. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's got everything you want in the Madden package. It has well, I guess everything you want from an older Madden game in the package. There's a franchise mode. There's obviously you can play instant action kind of thing. There's a challenge mode as well where you can pick up games from in the middle of them, and it says, "Hey, this is the game where this guy did, Adrian Peterson ran for 2 touchdowns and won the game over the Chargers." And that's what your challenge is, to get 2 touchdowns with Adrian Peterson and win the game against the Chargers. Stuff like that. That's pretty fun to do. Not entirely super challenging, but still pretty fun. The soundtrack is great on the game. I felt lots of bangers on there. Paper Cut by Linkin Park. There's a Shinedown song on there as well. That's pretty good. I think even like Kryptonite by Three Doors Down is on this one. Also, there is John Madden commentary in it, which is very nice. I miss his commentary, especially during like actual sporting games. You go back and listen to him talk about football. It's always so much fun. So if you want a little bit of a time capsule, I mean, it's not Madden '08, but it definitely is a good version of Madden '09 on the PSP. It is a good version of Madden. I enjoyed my time while playing it, and maybe you will too if you ever get around to it. Or if you just want to get like the console version of the game, I think that also is pretty good. But at this point, it might just be me wishing or hoping for the older version of Madden to come back. We also played and finished Call of Duty Infinite Warfare on stream. If you don't know, I am a pretty big fan of Infinite Warfare. I know it's a bit controversial to say that, but I think Infinite Warfare is one of the best campaigns in the Call of Duty series, rivaling those of your Black Ops 1 and 2s, your Madden trilogies. I think that they really did put their all into the story mode for this game. They put in the jet missions or the fighter missions. There's really good level design all around. Lots of interesting things going on. Lots of there's actually stakes to the game as well. Like characters are dying and things are happening. So it's one of those ones that you kind of get invested into, and it also just kind of it just has a lot of really explosive, cool moments in it. The space combat actually feels pretty good. You can use your grappling hook to grab people and boost towards them, and then rip off their helmet in space or something like that. It's pretty badass. There's robots to take down and stuff like that. There's like an entire level that's kind of like zombies, where the robots can only move when it's daytime outside, but you're on an asteroid that's it's like really spinning fast. So the daytime cycle and the night cycle are really quick, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's all pretty cool, and the graphics are pretty good. The story is pretty good. I don't really have any troubles with the game at all in terms of story. Even the zombies mode, when I played it back in the day, was pretty fun. It had like that '80s vibe, and David Hasselhoff was in it as like a DJ. It's just one of those things that, like, yeah, it was pretty good for its time, but it was a bit underappreciated because people were really tired of the futuristic stuff. I mean, this game came out after people were already very tired of the new traversal techniques like the jetpacks and double jumps and stuff like that. I think Black Ops 4 came out after this one, right? And I mean, that was like the tail end, and people hated that game. And now here we are. Infinite Warfare was one of the it was one of the most disliked videos on YouTube for quite some time. And yeah, I mean, once again, the reason for that is because it was Infinite Warfare. It was futuristic. People were tired of the futuristic stuff. If this game had came out right after Advanced Warfare, I think people would have loved this game, and they would realize that Black Ops 3 is dog shit, right? But no, it's the other way around. People seem to really like Black Ops 3 for some reason, and then apparently Infinite Warfare is the shit of the shit, but it's not. It really isn't. Is it my favorite game of all time? No, but it is a top 5 at least for Call of Duty campaigns in my opinion. I gave it a 4 out of 5 at the end of the day, and I don't remember what tier I gave it, but probably like an A tier. Yeah, Yeah, sure. Like the multiplayer is not good, but I'm not judging it on the multiplayer. I don't judge any. I like unless it's new and I've played the multiplayer, like Modern Warfare 3 or Modern Warfare 2 from these past couple years. I don't really factor in the multiplayer to older Call of Duty rankings, especially when the multiplayer is either dead or defunct at this point. And if you're going into Infinite Warfare wanting a good story, a good a good campaign, here you go. This is the one for you. And even like I said before, even the zombies mode, not too bad. I actually enjoyed that a lot. So if you want to shit on it, you can shit on it if you so desire. But you know, that's your personal opinion if you want. All right, another game that we played on stream was Kirurin, which is a Game Boy Advance game where you play as this infinitely spinning little ship that has wings on it, and you got to go through a obstacle course. I played a little bit of this when it first came to the service, but I was very excited to play it through all the way on like stream, just so more people could see the fun of the game. And yeah, it's still pretty fun. I enjoyed it. I think the music's pretty good in the game. I think the style of the game's pretty good. I mean, it's a simple concept, but it's done pretty well. It's a pretty fun time dodging and maneuvering around these obstacles as you spin around. There's other games that try to replicate this, like Roundabout, and there's also a few other Kirurin games out there, like on the 3DS and the DS. The level design's pretty good, but there were a few levels that I didn't like. There was like 3 ice world levels that I thought were kind of annoying and whatever. The time trial stuff was pretty fun too, but you know, it wasn't always like the most fun thing ever. In the end, like I enjoyed the game. It's a quick little playthrough. It's on the Nintendo Switch Online service, so it's easily accessible if you want to pay the extra money for Game Boy Advance games. The story's not good in the game at all. It's pretty much just you tracking down your various siblings who ran off and did whatever. So, you know, the story is pretty simple, but everything else is pretty fun. It's pretty fun. It's enjoyable, I would say. It does get a little bit frustrating at times, especially during the time trials. But with the Nintendo Switch Online rewind feature, all your problems can pretty much disappear. But I can see there being some real big big challenges in here, especially later on. That if you didn't have the rewind feature for, it could be kind of daunting. I get that. In the end, I gave it a B tier. I thought it was pretty fun. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And then finally, for the games that I've been playing this past week, we also played Afro Samurai for the PS3. And this is based off of a manga and an anime series where you play as a samurai who is trying to avenge his father and hunt down the guy who killed him. It's a story of loss and revenge and all that stuff. Obviously, the anime and manga it's based off of is much better. This game suffers from what we like to call in the biz style over substance. Essentially, the game's graphic style and music is really good. Like, really good. Like, the music is fun. Obviously, it's probably from the anime as well, but it's still pretty fun. And the graphic style is like the cel-shaded kind of look, kind of combining the aspect of like what it would look in the manga and the anime itself into the video game 3D realm. It's got a nice style to it. And yes, there's plenty of dismemberment in the game. Pretty cool stuff there as well. But the problem is that the combat is just so mundane. It's so boring at times. Like, you do the same combos over and over again, the ones that work. And sometimes all you gotta do is like hit an enemy a couple times and then do the ultimate sword slash, which cuts them in half or wherever you're pointing. It kind of like Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, right? And I can't really give the game credit for a good story and good music because I believe that's all just from the material that's based off of. So I can't really give the game credit for that kind of stuff. But the combat, very basic, but also the gameplay is it's very laggy at times, especially if you level up or there's too many enemies on the screen. The game slows down to a crawl, the frame rate drops. It's just one of those games that just it's not optimized very well. And I don't know if there's like an Xbox 360 version or something that's better optimized, but I was playing the PS3 version. That's the experience that I had with it. Also, like, the enemies don't really change up too much during the game either. Like, yeah, sure, there's some new boss fights in there, but the base enemies that you fight, it's all just like pretty much regular enemies for the most part, with a couple of big guys in there as well. But yeah, the enemies really I mean, it's pretty much after like the third part of the game where they just kind of stop giving you new enemies to fight, which is a little bit annoying because you kind of once you get an enemy's moveset down, it's not really that hard to pick them off. And also, a lot of this game is just spamming buttons anyway. Like, the basic square, square, square combo is, like, really good for some reason. But also triangle, triangle, triangle is really good, too. But you can pretty much just spam any button that you want, and you'll probably win most battles without even without even blocking, really. So in the end, I didn't really enjoy my time with Afro Samurai. It was bogged down by technical issues and mundane gameplay. Yeah, sure, the graphics look nice, the music's great, and the story's good, but 2 out of those 3 things we can attribute to just being good source material. So in the end, I gave it a D tier, a 2 out of 5, unfortunately. All right, let's go ahead and move on to What's in the News. All right, first up, Netflix's Horizon Zero Dawn TV show has either been canceled or shelved indefinitely at this point. It was reported by Rolling Stone this past week that the show was no longer moving forward. And then a deeper look into the problem with the show, it all kind of revolved around a guy named Steve Blackman, who was the showrunner for the Umbrella the Umbrella Netflix series, and he was also working on the Horizon Zero Dawn series. But it came out that he was creating a toxic environment. He was bullying people, being manipulative, and retaliatory behavior, which probably means like when someone told him like, hey, we need to do this, he would retaliate and whatever. So there were multiple HR complaints about Steve Blackman from these different productions that he was working on. So finally, Netflix put the kibosh on it. So not only will the Umbrella Academy show not be in the works anymore, but the Horizon Zero Dawn series has officially been shelved and it's possibly been canceled at this point. But it hasn't officially been canceled yet. They just kind of shelved it. But at this point, it's they're either waiting for someone to take over the showrunner position, or they're just gonna say, hey, we're just going to leave this and let this be for a while before picking this back up. Now, the show was originally, it was going to be named Horizon 2074. It was going to be a prequel to the events of the first game, which may have been kind of cool. Maybe we could have seen the downfall of humanity, or the end of that whole like war that you kind of get pieces of in both of the games. But it's something that maybe we'll never see. But Sony has really been pushing Horizon as a franchise forward. They're doing that Lego game. They've been doing plenty of figures and stuff for the series, and a Lego set too. So I'm sure that Sony will probably try and push this forward regardless, and probably someone else will take over as showrunner. So once again, it's shelved indefinitely right now, but it's possible that it'll come back into production within maybe a few months or so. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. Capcom is ending support of Exoprimal, which was a game that came out last year. This was the game where you built suited up in mech suits and fought dinosaurs, alien dinosaurs. I played a little bit of it, and I really couldn't get into it. I think I talked about it last year as well. You can check out that podcast episode if you so desire for my full thoughts, my fresh thoughts. My thoughts thinking about it now, I do remember it just kind of being a bit boring. But then again, I don't really remember much of it because I think it was pretty unmemorable. So the game was supposed to end content, or it is going to end content at the end of Season 4, which is July 11th. That is the last day for Season 4. After that, Capcom will just be rotating the game back through previous seasons. They also said that they are not removing anything from this experience, so all gameplay modes will remain available to play. This will include the main Dino Survival mode, as well as the endgame content such as Savage Gauntlet and Time Loop Rebellion. If you're playing alone in a match or with a few other players, bots will still be added to so you can fully enjoy the game's story and reach the ending. So it's good to hear that the game is going to remain online for the foreseeable future at this point. It is kind of sad if you're a person who's invested time and even money into this game. It is kind of sad to see it go already after it feels like less than a year that this game has been out. In a post, they said, "Thank you for playing Exoprimal. With the release of Title Update 4, all planned Exoprimal seasonal content has been finished. After Season 4, which concludes on July 11th, Season 1 will return. From there, a new season will begin for the first of each month. In addition, Season Passes 1 through 3 will be available for sale again. This will allow players to obtain items from all seasons." What if you've obtained all the items from each season, though? I guess you just get to replay a lot of content, huh? So, yeah, I mean, if you want to check out Exoprimal, it's probably going to be on sale. I mean, it's probably going to be one of those games that you'll find on sale all the time at this point, especially after, once the season wraps up. But once again, I think I played a little bit of it because it was on Xbox Game Pass, and I wanted to try it out. I don't think I would have bought this game for full price no matter what, because I mean, it's a looter shooter essentially. It's a live service game. And I don't know how many times I need to be burned on live service games before I realize, like, either I'm not into them or they're just not good in general. It seems like this year has been the year of failed. I mean, I guess multiple. I mean, it's been multiple years where live service games have just kind of been shutting down. But whatever. Sad to see it go, I suppose. But you know what's even more sad? Jez Corden, who is one of the people on the Xbox podcast, the Xbox 2 podcast, was talking to... it was just kind of talking in general, and he brought up the idea of a Banjo-Kazooie reboot or new Banjo-Kazooie game, hoping that it was in the works, and in the response, they said, "I can tell you right now, categorically, there is no Banjo game in development as of this podcast. On the 26th of June, 2024, there is no Banjo game in development right now." In January, a YouTuber by the name Nate the Hate said that there was an active project related to Banjo-Kazooie inside of Xbox that was greenlit in 2023. But apparently that was either wrong or it's already been canceled, or the studio that was working on it has been shut down by Xbox. It's hard to say which one it would have been. Phil Spencer did acknowledge in an interview last year saying that fans, he wants to bring Banjo back at the right time, and I did talk about that back last year as well. But it seemed like the right time to bring Banjo back has already passed. When Super Smash Bros. Ultimate revealed that Banjo-Kazooie was coming back for that game, he had a new design, moveset that was very reminiscent of his Nintendo 64 era. That was the time to put a Banjo-Kazooie game into development so that a couple of years later it could come out and people would be very happy. But they missed the mark. They completely whiffed. They missed it completely. That was the time. The hype for Banjo-Kazooie was at an all-time high, and now we're back to it being more of an underground series at this point. The last actual game in the series came out back in the 360 days, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. The last appearance of him hasn't been too long, but at this point, it's been a couple of years since Banjo-Kazooie came to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Anyway, it's just one of those things that's it's very sad. It's a beloved mascot character that people still do love and enjoy the old games. Me, myself, personally, I love Banjo-Kazooie. The original N64 game is still my favorite game of all time. I can play that game any day and enjoy myself, collect all the shit in it. I don't care. I have a lot of fun with Banjo-Kazooie, and I know there's a lot of people out there who also really love Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, there's been merchandising, there's been all this stuff happening for Banjo-Kazooie, Funko Pops, plushies, etc. But they don't have a game in development for this franchise. It seems like a huge missed opportunity. Not every single game needs to be a AAA, multi-million-dollar escapade. It doesn't, triple into the triple digit of the millions. It doesn't have to be that. You can have a smaller team put on a smaller game and release it, and not invest millions and millions and millions of dollars into it. You can have a game that is funded for like $500,000 and worked on by a small studio, and release and make money. This is the stuff that used to happen in the 360 and the PS3 era, and even the PS2 and Xbox original era, and the other Nintendo franchise, Nintendo eras as well, where smaller games would come out from them from these studios. I mean, Nintendo is really the only one still doing smaller releases along with big releases. I mean, look at this latest Nintendo Direct. We have a bunch of smaller releases along with a big release of the new Zelda game or the new Mario and Luigi game. I would say those are pretty big, but then you also have like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and you have all these smaller projects like Princess Peach Showtime was even a smaller project that come out and they make money and they keep your brand afloat. Whereas with Sony and Xbox recently, it feels like either the game needs to be a AAA, genre defining, graphics boosting experience. They can't have anything that's just a smaller experience. The smaller experiences have worked in the past, and I guarantee they will work in the future. Look at Astrobot Playroom. That was it's still one of the most played games on PlayStation. It's still one of the most beloved games on PlayStation 5, and yet we're just now getting an Astrobot game, and there really hasn't been anything else that's reached the same heights in terms of enjoyability as that Astrobot game. Mini rant over. Bring Banjo-Kazooie back. It's time to give him a new game. Please don't let Nuts and Bolts be the last Banjo-Kazooie game ever. For the love of God. All right. So Tales of Kenzara Zhao recently came out. There was a lot of build-up for this game. It was a smaller studio, and it was a passion project by the lead of the studio. It was a story about loss in life in Africa and stuff like that. The development studio behind the game has been shut down, Surgent Studios. In a Twitter post, they said, unfortunately, Surgent has joined the growing number of game studios impacted by layoffs this year, with just over a dozen people affected. This is a difficult time in the games industry, but we remain incredibly proud of the entire team's work on Zhao and of the praise it has received from the critics and players alike. Our focus now is on supporting those affected, continuing the work on Zhao, and looking to the future with our next creative project. Now, I guess they don't really get into specifics as to why they were closed down. But it could just be that the game didn't sell as well as they were hoping it would. It didn't review as well as they were hoping it would, and unfortunately, because of those two factors, they couldn't get funding for another game, or maybe they stopped getting funding for their next game. It's hard to say because this game it just came out. Like that Zhao game just came out. It was like a month or two ago at this point, so it's hard to believe that only after a few months of the game's release, it's already had to shut down. It's very unfortunate. And, I could see the potential in the game, but unfortunately, they decided to do this game and release it the same year as that Prince of Persia Lost Crown game, which is, in my opinion, more polished, more fun, etc. Like, Tales of Kenzara was good. It was a bit more flashy, but I felt like the controls were very stiff. The gameplay was very stiff. As a Metroidvania, it wasn't like really grabbing me, which is why I decided to get a refund on the game. And maybe that was a shitty thing for me to do on my part, but hey, what's done is done. Can't say anymore. But there you go. Hopefully the people who were laid off from the studio, can find work somewhere else. Frank West's voice actor won't be returning for Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. We already know this, but the reason for why is a bit curious. It's a bit curious. Someone reached out to the voice actor on Instagram DMs. I believe his name is Terrence Rotolo is the person who played Frank in the old games, the first game and the Dead Rising 2 expansion Off the Record, I believe. He was also brought back for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to voice the character as well. But obviously, Dead Rising 4, I don't believe he voiced the character. And then, of course, Dead Rising 3 was a completely different character in general. But someone slid into his DMs and asked him, hey, just a quick question. Do you know the reason why you weren't casted for Dead Rising's upcoming remake? I think everyone would have loved it and prefers you as Frank. And he responded with this. Hello, y'all. Your question and support is seen and appreciated. There is no answer. I'm sorry. The answer to your question is I have no answer. All I can say is that I've always been grateful for every opportunity to help bring Frank to life. An actor's job, when called upon, is to show up prepared to deliver your best, and when done, move on to the next mission. I simply wasn't called for this mission. The reasons are the producer's own. All the best for you and the Dead Rising fans. Appreciate y'all. So apparently he wasn't even notified or asked to come back and reprise his role for the character. I was kind of thinking maybe he just sounds too old nowadays for a Dead Rising remake, you know. But that's the thing, though. They redesigned Frank's character to look older. He's got like a thinning hairline. He's got more wrinkles. I mean, if you look at the comparison side by side, you know, it's definitely like a night and day kind of thing. He's definitely aged like 20 years or so between the remake and this game. So, I'm sorry, the original and the remake, this game. So it's hard to believe that they wouldn't want the original voice actor back. Maybe they just lost his contact. I don't know. But the main thing is like, okay, you're just kind of, I mean, when you do something like this, you're just kind of stirring up the fan base who's already going to be a bit more critical of your, you know, remaster, deluxe remaster. Well, yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, we're just going to either wait and see what happens. Maybe it'll be a DLC add-on where the original voice of the character is Frank. I don't know. People have already put under a microscope this game, and it was revealed that Frank West's original design will be available in the game as an add-on as well, which is, once again, just a bit shitty, isn't it? So, even though the game looks great, I think that the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster will be good. There are some underlying problems here that are popping up that aren't entirely game-related, but they are like a bit shady. Like, why didn't we get the original voice actor back? Why did we age Frank so much for this game? And why wasn't the original voice actor even given the opportunity to voice the character? It doesn't make any sense. And also, why is the original version of Frank an add-on? I don't know. All right, Xbox is sending out excellence awards for games that performed well on Xbox. So apparently all of the top 20 best performing Xbox games will be getting some sort of plaque for their excellence awards. Right now, we only know that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre got one, and also the people behind My Time in Sandrock also got an excellence award. Two of the best-selling games on the Xbox. Now, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a decent game. A decent, like, isometric, 1v3, or, well, I guess it was like 4v4, kind of like a Dead by Daylight type thing, except there were more than one killer on the loose. So, I mean, my time with the game was decent. I gave a full review of it back last year when it came out. It was actually one, like, in terms of, like, just getting the video to not have any restrictions on it. It was a very long process that kind of still pops up here and there nowadays. Because I have Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the title, I feel like that's the one reason why it sometimes gets partially viewable and it gets age restricted. I reverse these things, and I don't know if it'll happen again, but I put the video game in the title as well, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the video game, so that everyone knows I'm not just talking about a massacre for no reason. And then My Time at Sandrock, I never played this game. It's a cozy, like, building game, though. It's cool that the Xbox is giving out these little placards. They're pretty cool. I'm not sure who else is going to be getting one, but if you look at the top, 20 games of 2023, maybe you'll see, maybe you'll be able to predict who's going to get one. I also would like to say that they are laying off studios and closing studios, and then they're giving out these fucking awards they look pretty high quality. Maybe we could save some of that budget for the studios that you are shutting down. I don't know, just an idea. CD Projekt Red. All right, so we already know that there's a new Cyberpunk sequel coming out. But the creators of the game, or the people working on the game right now at CD Projekt Red in Boston, have already said that they want to make the game more American. Now, if you've played through Cyberpunk 2077, you'll know that, like, it's very like Neo Tokyo, like it's very much like the Japanese culture infused with American culture in there. Obviously, there was a few things that were maybe a bit immersion breaking that people have brought up, like the manhole covers are from Europe and the trash bins are on the wrong side of the road or whatever. I don't know if any of that stuff is really that immersion breaking, but the game did feel like if you're looking at the CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 in a vacuum, it does feel more like Tokyo inspired than anything else. And maybe that's because a lot of people today really like the Japanese culture, and we have plenty of even where I live in Ohio, we have plenty of like sushi restaurants and Japanese restaurants and Asian themed restaurants and places you can go to now where you can get like these imported goods from these different places, these different Asian countries. So I could see that being a steady rise in popularity in America. But if they want to make a more like Americanized version of Cyberpunk, look no further than the game that you already made. There was an entire section of the map that was like this country hick open road area. Like I feel like if anything, that's kind of a good representation of at least like the south of America, where it's a lot of open roads and people modding their vehicles and hanging out in fields and stuff like that. But hey, we'll see what they're working on. They want to blast it with more punk energy. And they want to do more a more American version of Cyberpunk 2077. So there you go. Nintendo has officially run out of replacement parts for the Wii U in Japan. They already ran out of parts for the Wii U back in, I think it was either a year ago or a couple years ago for the Americas. But now officially the Japanese version of the Wii U cannot be repaired anymore either. It's pretty surprising that people were still sending in their Wii U's to get fixed. And I think that maybe when the American parts ran out, I think probably a lot of Japanese customers were like, well, my Wii U has been kind of running weirdly. Maybe I should just send it in because they'll do the repairs. So I think there was maybe an uptick in Wii U repairs over the past year, and they finally ran out of parts for them. They said they will no longer accept Wii U's for repair in Japan anymore, and obviously in America and Europe it was already kiboshed. There was no more of that anyway. It lasted all the way up until July 3rd. The parts lasted all the way up until July 3rd, which is pretty good. We'll see how long the Switch repairs go for, if this truly is the last year for the Switch. I'm hoping that they'll be keeping the parts in stock for even longer. But, it's cool that they were still repairing them. I mean, look, you try and send an Xbox 360 to Xbox. They'll just send it back to you at this point, right? Same thing with, like, PlayStation. Send a PS3 or whatever. When the Wii U was around, I mean, the PS3 and the Xbox 360 were still popular devices, and the PS4 and the Xbox One were right around the corner. I mean, it's possible that even Sony or Xbox wouldn't fix an Xbox One or PS4s anymore. But with Nintendo, it was nice that they were still repairing them with the parts they had left, and now the parts are gone. So if you want parts for your Wii U, you gotta go on like eBay or find broken Wii U's in stores or something like that. Get them for parts. All right. EA is delisting the remaining Battlefield games that are on Xbox 360. If you don't know, the Xbox 360 store is closing on July 31st, so the games are going to be delisted anyway. But the other thing is that they are shutting down the online services for all three of the remaining Battlefield games as well. So Battlefield 3, Battlefield Hardline, and Battlefield 4. Those are the last remaining games on the store, plus all their DLC will be delisted ahead of the servers going down, and of course, by the time that the store is closed on Xbox 360. So the servers are going to be shut down in November, but the games themselves won't be purchasable even before the end of the closing of the Xbox 360 store. Now, a lot of people are rushing to buy stuff on the Xbox 360 store that is not physical, but I will tell you that there are physical versions of Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Battlefield Hardline at any used game store. Even on eBay, you can get it for pennies or dollars. But anyway, so if you want to buy Battlefield 3, 4, or Hardline, you can literally just go to any used game store or go onto eBay or even Amazon and just get a copy of the game if you so desire. The online's not going to be available anymore by the time by November 7th. I mean, the Battlefield 3 had a decent story mode from what I remember. Battlefield Hardline was a bit iffy on the story, but it was a different take on the series, much more smaller scale. If you're a trophy hunter and you want to finish up any of these games, that's another thing too. Is like, hey, there's online trophies for all three of these games. I'm pretty sure, so you might want to also do that as well if you're a trophy hunter or achievement hunter, I should say. But there you go, end of an era. It's coming soon. And finally, for the news today, new collectible PlayStation figurines will be out in August, featuring some famous PlayStation characters. So these will they'll be available on the PlayStation Gear website, which is gear.playstation.com. The first one up for pre-order right now is Aloy, a 6-inch action figure, officially licensed product. It doesn't look too bad, all things considered. There's multiple faces you can swap out, multiple hands. You get the bow, a quiver, an arrow, and the spear, of course, with Aloy herself. This is going for about $50 on the PlayStation Gear website, plus shipping, of course. You have to factor that in as well. The other figurines that will be coming out, which are probably going to be around the same pricing, you have Kratos and Atreus as like a combo pack. You have Ghost of Tsushima's Jin Sake and Varl from Horizon Forbidden West as well. All four of the figurines are going to cost about $30 or $40 each, but the Aloy one seems to be the most expensive one. Maybe because she comes with the most accessories, or maybe because, I don't know, she's a bit more detailed than I'm not sure. They all look relatively good. The Jin Sake one is pretty good. I like the Kratos and Atreus one. Varl doesn't look too bad either. I think his mustache is a little bit weird, but hey, that's just me. But there you go. If you want to check these out, you can either check out the listing for Aloy right now on PlayStation Gear, gear.playstation.com, or check out the article for the action figures themselves. All right, let's go ahead and move on to what's coming soon. All right, a new season of content will be coming to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This will be Season 2. Now, I know this game doesn't have a lot of players anymore, but I figured I might as well talk about this because there is a bit of controversy around it. Who would have guessed? Instead of Mr. Freeze being a playable character, they're turning to his wife, Nora Freeze, and you'll be able to play as Mrs. Freeze. A lot of people are very confused as to why they're going woke with the game and changing Mr. Freeze's gender and using his wife as the character instead of him. And all I have to say about that is, in Arkham Knight, Mr. Freeze dies. We don't know what happens to Nora, though. We actually don't know what happens to either of them, but we can only assume that they both either died or Mr. Freeze died at least because his suit was damaged. Nora Freeze is a character in the DC Comics. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't read the comics, but Mrs. Freeze was introduced during like the Villains Month stuff in the New 52. Essentially, Mr. Freeze, it's not canon, of course, but there's like a side story where Mr. Freeze like revives his wife, and his wife is actually like the real criminal mastermind, and she wants to do all this stuff. So Batman and him team up to actually take down his wife. So, it's an interesting story. It's an interesting arc for the character, especially. So I think that's where the inspiration for this character came from. Obviously, I think the design of the character isn't like amazing, but it's not bad per se. I just think it's kind of like a average kind of looking character. The hair is kind of weird. It's like all icicles. I guess they kind of had to do something since, Mr. Freeze is usually bald for most of his character designs, but. Yeah, it's one of those things that, people are kind of stirring up controversy for no reason. I mean, I know there's not a lot of people playing this game anymore, but the people who are still, watching for whatever updates for the game, they definitely have things to say for sure. But once again, I don't think it's the game going quote unquote woke or anything like that. They're just using a more niche character than you might know of. And with this game taking place after the events of Arkham Knight, it's easy to assume that maybe Nora Freeze took the suit from Freeze, or Victor gave her the suit, or she was able to survive and build her own suit. something like that. Now, obviously, this is also in a timeline where there's Elseworld characters jumping in, like Joker came in for season 1, which I was very annoyed with. So, you know, could they have used Captain Cold for this character? Yes. They could have just used Captain Cold, a character who hasn't been established in the Arkhamverse, who we didn't see in the game. There you go. You could just use Captain Cold. It's pretty much the same character. I mean, Captain Cold and Mister Freeze are character swaps in Injustice 2. You could have done it. I feel like, yeah, they're probably putting in the Mrs. Freeze character because, one, I mean, Harley Quinn is the only female character you can play as in the game right now. So it only makes sense to add another female character, and maybe they just didn't have anyone else. I don't know, because the other thing is too, like, there are still a lot of female representation in the DC universe. There's a lot of female villains in the DC universe, ones that are a bit more well known than Mrs. Freeze. You could have done any number of Wonder Woman villains. There's plenty of Batman characters and Flash villains who are evil female characters. Like there's a wealth of characters that you could have taken out from anywhere. But instead they decide to use a more niche character, which is obviously going to drum up a bit more chatter, of course. You can also not only will you be able to play as Mrs. Freeze, but there will also be a new melee weapon pack, new Killer Frost Infamy set. Once again, another Killer Frost, a character who was already in. Well, okay. Well, is Assault on Arkham canon in the Arkham universe? I don't think it is. So yeah, you could have used Killer Frost. I know she was in the Assault on Arkham movie, but it's already been established. It doesn't seem like that's canon because there's a lot of characters from the game that movie that do show up. I believe King Shark being one of them. King Shark was in that movie, but I digress. So Killer Frost Infamy set for guns. There's a Firefly like SMG, a Parasite Notorious melee weapon. There's also Elseworld Mayhem map, Superman and Flash Brainiac fights, ever-changing Metropolis. So I guess it'll be kind of covered in snow every so often. New Battle Pass outfits, as well as some more stuff coming later in Episode 4, which is just winter, or is happening during winter time. You'll be able to fight the Green Lantern and Superman Brainiac fight. There's a new melee weapon for Harley Quinn, a new machine gun, a new assault rifle, some new incursions, and it looks like they were actually adding in that original Arkham Asylum outfit for Harley Quinn back, or maybe that's the Arkham Knight one. Yeah, I think that's the Arkham Knight outfit. So yeah, they're bringing that back, even though Harley Quinn was like, no, I don't want to wear that one. So they're making that an outfit anyway. That's kind of funny. But yeah, all that and more will be available in Season 2, which starts July 11th for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. All right, moving on to something probably more people are interested in. The Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition is getting a Collector's Edition, as we already knew, but the details for that Collector's Edition is available to look at now. The pre-orders for the base game start on July 12th and only last until August 11th. Same thing for the Collector's Edition. Between the July 12th and August 11th, you'll be able to pre-order the Collector's Edition for $125. They are estimated to ship these products May 1st through the 31st next year, so you'll be waiting a little bit of time for this to come out. The base game might come out a little bit sooner because it is just the game. But okay, anyway. Here's what you can get inside of the collector's edition of the game. So, photo art prints, a camera keychain, a hovercraft statue, a metal pin, and a double-sided poster, along with an art book. You also get the game itself for whatever system you want it on, Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch. And it looks like there's also a code for something as well. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's the digital deluxe version of the game. I don't know. So yeah, it's a decent collector's edition. The thing with limited run games, I always feel like their collector's editions are a little bit overpriced. This one seems okay for the price tag, but it's not something that I'm going to get the collected. I'll probably just get the base version of the game, really. Yeah, that'll be enough for me. The standard edition is about $35. That'll be shipping between December 1st and 31st. So I was right. The base game ships a little bit earlier. All right. During the latest Bandai Namco event, I guess you could say, a game called Bleach: Rebirth of Souls was announced for multiple systems here: Xbox, PlayStation, Steam. So there's not a lot of Bleach games out there, but this is like they said it's going to be an action fighting game. So I can only imagine that's going to be kind of like the Naruto or One Piece games out there, like the little bit of adventure game, a little bit of fighting game, They didn't really show too much off of the game. They showed some of the graphic style, which is very stylish, very stylized. They showed some of the main characters in there as well. They said it's coming soon, but they did not give a release date for the game. But they are targeting, so we'll wait to hear more about that in the future. A game called The First Descendant, which is a free-to-play game, launched this past week. The numbers for the game have been pretty good. I believe they've already gotten into the, almost 500,000 players playing zone of the game, its life cycle. This is a live service game, a co-op shooter kind of game. I haven't played it myself, and I may not play it. But they already have an official roadmap for The Descendant right now, if you are interested in that. I guess starting in July, you'll be getting a new character named Luna and a new Colossus named Gluttony, a new ultimate ability as well, along with a new ultimate weapon and skin. Season 1, which will start late August, will have 3 updates in it and a new episode called Invasion, along with field completion. Not sure what that is. A new Descendant and Descendant story, along with some other stuff as well. And then Season 2 is going to start in early December with update Episode 2 called Ancestor, with a new Mega Dungeon, a new utility companion, and much more. So if you're interested in that, the game is free-to-play right now. I believe it's free-to-play across the board on all systems. Once again, I have not played it myself. It didn't really seem like something that I was wanting to invest any time into, but if you want to check it out, there you go. The roadmap is there for you to check out if you so desire. The new Crazy Taxi game coming from Sega got a bit of a... There's an interview with some of the developers of the game. Of course, it was all in Japanese, so I got to go off of what PushSquare.com has written out for me for their translations. Thank you to them. They didn't really show any of the game off, really. I mean, there's like a snippet here or there, but it's mostly just the developers talking in a room, and they're just talking, they're hyping up the game a bit, saying how the game is going to be so good, and they're bringing it to the modern era, right? They showed off a few of the cars. I'm trying to look at them in the video right now. There's one that looks more like the original Taxi. There's like a police car. There's like there's a whole bunch of different taxis in the game, right? So it's going to be like an open multiplayer type game in a theme park-like city. The city will look realistic, but the players will be able to traverse it freely with the game's chaotic driving. They discussed that the game is going to be a vibrant and cheerful art style, which will be shown in the characters and in the cars themselves. They didn't really go into how the multiplayer part of the game is going to kind of take place. I'm guessing it's going to be one of those things kind of like the Tony Hawk games where you can see everyone racing around on the board and doing stuff on the board or on the map. But you won't really be able to interact with them or do things with them. But then again, I mean, the few little snippets of gameplay did show them all kind of running around together. So it's possible maybe you can like squad up or team up with other people to do taxi missions or whatever. And then you can also see other people roaming around on the map as well, kind of like maybe like a Forza game or something like that. It's hard to say, but I am excited to see more about this, and I'm sure they'll reveal more as the game comes closer to launch eventually down the road. Dead Space got a surprise mode in Battlefield 2042, which is on sale right now on Steam for like $5. But available on the 16th of July, you'll be able to play in this new mode called Outbreak Mode, where you need to fight your way out of like it's almost like a zombie infestation, but it's like android robots gone hostile, right? So essentially, you just need to fight your way out and escape. And there's a new skin for Isaac that you can also purchase as well. So if you want to check that out, that'll be only available between. Oh wait, I'm sorry. It's only available from the 9th of July to the 16th of July. I read that wrong. So it's a bit of a limited time event, which is kind of crazy, seeing as this is probably going to be the most popular thing that the game has done for quite some time. Like, sure, I had some praise for the game when I talked about it, but it doesn't have the player base to do something so short, you know. And I don't know if people are going to clamor to play this game again simply for the Isaac skin. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Also, this is of note because Season 7 was supposed to be the final thing of the game, but now they're adding in this Dead Space thing. So maybe it shows that there's going to be a bit more support for the game than we thought. A game called Bare Butt Boxing has been shown off on the YouTube channel Tuatara, which I believe is the developers of the game. Essentially, you play as these wiggly wobbly dudes who box each other, and you try and punch them enough to knock them out. Kind of reminds me of Pummel Party or that Party Animals game that came out recently. This will be available on August 1st for the Switch. I believe it's also going to be available for PlayStation and Xbox as well. You know, it's kind of goofy. I don't know how much I would play of this game. There is online and local multiplayer and power-ups that you can get and stuff like that. So it's not like it's going to be like a completely bare bones experience with just one game mode. But, you know, it's just one of those things that I don't know. If it's like a $10 game, maybe I'll check it out, pick it up, and see what's going on. But, you know, I mean, it looks kind of goofy. It looks kind of ridiculous. But, yeah, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Also, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2, which recently came to Xbox Game Pass, is going to be getting a new character. He's actually available right now, and that is Rocksteady, the Rhino. So Rocksteady is known from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series, shows, movies, etc. I don't know if he's being voiced by the same guy who plays him in the show. I believe Jim Cummings does the voice for him in one of the shows or movies. But yeah, it's just gonna be Rocksteady. They did not have Bebop. He's not in the game yet. But maybe Bebop would be. I mean, Bebop and Rocksteady are kind of two peas in a pod, really. So maybe he'll be added at a later date, or maybe he'll be an assist trophy or something like that. I don't know. But this update comes with some alternative costumes as well for him. This will be available July 3rd, which is already available right now. So if you want to check out Rocksteady, I believe you have to get him as like a DLC, I believe. I'm not seeing if he's like a free add-on character or if he's a part of like a character pack. I'm not seeing that. Well, there you go. He's available now. Transformers Galactic Trials. This is a new racing/roguelike game in the Transformers universe. So essentially, you'll race around on tracks and battle it out every so often with the many different Transformers. You can fight, you can race. What more could you want? You can customize your Autobot or Decepticon. You can play solo or with friends as well. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It kind of reminds me of the Transformers games from the Xbox and Xbox 360 and PlayStation era. It's a bit more cartoony, obviously. But it's not like Transformers Devastation cartoony. It's kind of like a mix between the two, I would say. But yeah, you know, it looks kind of good. I'm not gonna dunk on it. I do hope that it's not like $50 or whatever. Hopefully, it's like a budget title. But you know, if you want to check that out, Trials is coming on October 11th across all the systems. A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead. I talked about the game's reveal last week. Well, now there's actually a story trailer for the game. Essentially, you're going to be playing as a woman who is working alongside her. I don't know if it's her boyfriend or her husband, but essentially they they kind of do some backstory with them, and then the whole world ends and she's pregnant. Uh-oh. So it kind of goes along a bit of the plot of the prequel movie that just came out and A Quiet Place Part 1, where they're trying to deal with what are we going to do with the baby, right? But it's in like the first 105 days that the aliens invaded. So It's going to be kind of crazy, I guess. It looks like it's going to be. I was expecting to be kind of like a Telltale thing almost, but it does look more closely related to something like an Outlast or something like that, where it's more of like a survival horror game where you can't really fight back, of course. Even though there is a section where she is using like a shotgun, I feel like it's like a one-time segment in like the back of a truck or something like that. So we'll see how the world of the game translates into video game form. It might be utterly boring. It might be really intense. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, the game is going to be coming soon. No official release date yet. But you can wishlist it now on Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam if you so desire. Parkitect Deluxe Edition. This is the Roller Coaster Tycoon type kind of game where you build parks. The graphics are nothing to write home about. Obviously, I like the campiness of the Roller Coaster Tycoon. But if you're looking for your Roller Coaster Tycoon fix and you don't want to, for whatever reason, you don't want to play the original version of the game, or Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 Open RCT2, which runs pretty well on modern consoles, you can also get Parkitect if you want to. This is going to have a console version of the game as well, so it has actually been redesigned for a more comfortable console experience with button remapping and changes to UI for the deluxe edition on the different platforms. This will be available to purchase on Wednesday, the July 3rd, so it's already available right now. If you want to check it out on PC, it's also the deluxe edition will be available on PC, but it's already available on PC right now, and it's probably on sale right now if you want to check it out on PC. I have not played this one. It never really. I mean, it looked appealing. Don't get me wrong, but it's never been like in my mind to try this game out. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it works pretty well. I'm sure it's a pretty good roller coaster tycoon like kind of game. But I already have Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I've been playing Open RCT, so it's not like this is going to be a real game changer for me. But maybe for you, it will be. Nintendo has released some more Nintendo Entertainment System or NES games on their service. 7 to be exact. So there's 7 new games coming to this, not new, but 7 games coming to the service. And they are Urban Champion from 1986, Golf from 1985, Donkey Kong Jr. Math from 1986, Mach Rider from 1986, Sunsoft's side-scrolling platformer The Mystery of Atlantis 1986, and another game called Atlas no Nazo. So there you go. 2 of these games were recently were featured in the Rare Replay collection, and they're coming over here now. Solar Jetman from the 90s and Cobra Triangle from 1989. So that's 7 new games right there that you can try out on the NES Nintendo Switch Online service. I believe Golf has been around for a while, but it was kind of like hidden for whatever reason. But now Golf is there. It's ready to go. So if you want to check out any of those games, there you go. The Japanese version of the NSO service also got the first Mahjong game on the system, as well as the adventure game Famicom Mukashibanashi Shin Onigashima, and also a Connect 5-like game called Gamoko Narabe Renjei. So if you want to check any of those games out, there you go. Here are some games coming to Xbox Game Pass soon in July here. We already have Journey to the Savage Planet and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, which are available right now. But on July 9th, you'll be able to play Cricket 24 and The Case of the Golden Idol. On July 11th, you'll be able to play Neon White and Tachia. And then on July 16th, you'll be able to play a game called Flock and Magical Delicacy. Neon White, one of my favorite games from, 2 years ago now that this game came out? A year ago? I don't even remember at this point. It's a really fun game, though. I really love Neon White. Fast-paced, first-person shooter, card-based shooter. It sounds weird on paper, and it is kind of weird, but it's really good. I really enjoyed the game. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, great little brawler game. Talked about it at the end of the year last year. It's a fun time. It's definitely a fun time. Not as good as, like, your Smash Brothers, but it's a pretty good, brawler-type game. Tachia, I've been waiting to play this, so it will be nice to finally get around to actually playing it. This is the game where you island hop as a little girl, and she can do the Mario hat capture to animals in a way, and fly around and roll around as animals and stuff like that. But yeah, if you want to check out any of those games, they'll be available soon. And then finally, for the news today, or the coming soon section here, here's 6 games that are leaving Game Pass in July. So Cricket 22, Figment 2, Creed Valley, Coffee Talk Episode 2, Toem, Sins of the Solar Empire Rebellion, and The Wandering Village. If there's one game from this list that I think you should play, it's Toem. That is a really great adventure game. If you're an achievement hunter, it's also a pretty easy achievement list. But in terms of just like cutesy game, artistic games, Toem, one of my favorite games from like 2019 or so. It was really fun. I really enjoyed Toem a lot. So yeah, check out any of those games before they leave the service, if you so desire. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the final thing here, the closing of the show. We're going to do the song of the week. If you know the name of the song and the game that it is from. All right, I think we're back. So if you know the name of the song or the game that's from, make sure you type it either in the comments below on YouTube, and I'll give you a heart and a congratulations. Or head over to the Discord, link down in the description, and let me know what it is in the Discord in the Ferret 64 section, and I will give you a super reaction. Let's listen to the day. Oh my gosh, it's the end of this podcast, folks. Let's listen to today's episode. Let's listen to today's song right now. If you know the name of the song and the game that's from, let me know in the description or in the comments below or in the Discord. All right, folks, have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your week. I hope you had a great 4th of July. If you want to check me out, I stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. We're doing the Gaming Bonanza still, where we're playing games randomly chosen by marble races. It's been pretty fun so far. If you want to check it out any day of that I said, check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/YemmytheFerret. Also, you can check me out on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc., all at YemmytheFerret as well. There's also a VODs channel called YemmytheFerret VODs where you can catch up on older live streams, VODs of live streams. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm YemmytheFerret, and I'm out of here. I'll talk at you next week. So long. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by YemmytheFerret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by YemmytheFerret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.